All right, man, peace. So, just speaking about the topic of quote unquote loyalty in sports and how relevant it is, I'm on record as stating that no professional athlete should approach their chosen field of endeavor with a sense of quote unquote loyalty because that's not what it's about in business. Business is all about what is expedient. And hopefully, many of these athletes will look at the Isaiah Thomas situation, the Isaiah Thomas story, as a prime example of what happens when you mistake exactly what your goal should be whenever you become a professional athlete. You're viewed as being either an asset or a liability. And Isaiah Thomas, when he was playing extremely well for the Boston Celtics, was viewed as an asset. When he experienced a hip injury that stopped him from being as potent as he could be, he became a liability. He became a weakness. And they were able to move him for Kyrie Irving. They were able to sell an old lemon for a sports car that just needed a little bit of a tune-up. And I think that that hurt Isaiah Thomas, and I don't think that he's ever going to really be able to get over that hurt because he has a chip on his shoulder that was needed for him to have in order for him to become a professional NBA player. There's no way that you can be 5'8" and become a professional NBA player and not have a chip on your shoulder. It's not possible. Well, anyway, he decided that he was going to continue his war on anyone or anything that he feels has belittled him in any way by going on Instagram Live and calling out the city of Cleveland as a shithole. Now, whether or not the city of Cleveland is actually a shithole is up for speculation. I've never been there, so I wouldn't know. I do know of people who have been there who have confirmed that it is a shithole. It is what it is. But I think that the reason why Isaiah Thomas is so upset with Cleveland is because he was expected to fill the role that Kyrie Irving had filled so well, helping to lead them to a championship. And he was unable to do that. Well, Stephen A. Smith also agrees with my assertions, and he's going to take it a step further. So, of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
For SportsCenter right now, I'm Victoria Arlen. Nuggets guard Isaiah Thomas has apologized for profane comments he made about the Cavaliers via social media over the weekend. This is what he originally said.
Don't get mad at the weebalizations. I'm just saying, SAC, LA, and Boston was all love. Phoenix was cool. Y'all didn't rock with me. Because y'all signed me and then y'all got mad that I was hooping. And I guess messing up. Cleveland was I see why Brown left. So I see why Brown left.
You see why Bron left. Bron also is the one who greenlit your trade. So don't try to act like you on LeBron James' side. LeBron James ain't thinking about your little ass. LeBron James signed off on them putting you on a paper airplane and throwing you out of town, bro. That's the fact of the matter. Beyond that, you came into Cleveland trying to act as if you were the co-star to LeBron James as opposed to being the supplementary piece. And I think that LeBron tried to fool himself into believing that you could replace Kyrie. When the fact of the matter was that everything came together for you to have the level of success that you had in Boston. And it was not going to carry over to Cleveland, especially with you being hampered by that hip injury. And when fully healthy, you were not a good defensive player anyway. Of course, Kyrie Irving is not going to make anybody forget Chris Paul on the defensive end. But at least when Kyrie competes on defense, he can harass people. You can't even do that because you're 5'8". Let's be for real.
Again.
Thomas made this apology in a second video posting on social media. He said, in part, I shouldn't have said that. That was my fault. Cleveland was actually cool. It was all right.
No, brother, it wasn't cool and it wasn't all right. You told the truth the first time, but you have to understand that the truth is very, very powerful. The truth is like a fire. You can use a fire to heat your home, or if it spills out of control, it can burn you to death. And that's what social media is. Social media is something that you have to truly understand what you're doing, especially when you're someone with fame. It can hurt you in the long run when you're too transparent over social media. Just because you have an avenue to deliver a message to people does not mean that you should at all times. There are certain things that you have to understand that you can't say because you're in a very precarious situation right now. You're in a very, very tenuous predicament right now as someone who's looking for a big contract. You're going to have to truly ball out this season. And it's going to be very rough for him because he's going to be coming off the bench for the Denver Nuggets, a young team on the rise. And he's basically a 31-year-old guy still trying to hang on in the league. He's 5'8". He can't guard his lunch. Can't guard a damn statue. And he's going to have to be extremely proficient with the amount of minutes that he's given. So the last thing that he should be concerned about is digging up old shit, especially about Cleveland.
The situation just wasn't the best. Cleveland was cool. I shouldn't have said that. That was my bad. I was just talking on Instagram Live. I didn't think it was going to get to where they're posting it.
So you didn't think that you making public comments about a former city that you played in, calling that city a shithole, was going to end up being a big deal. The only thing that I can guess is that maybe you smoked a little something before you made that video.
Now let's take it back to First Take.
All right, IT venting there on IG Live, apologizing for basically hating on the city of Cleveland. Stephen A., do you think...
I don't think he was hating on the city of Cleveland. I think that he was speaking the truth to the best of his ability, according to his perspective. I'm sure that he was the recipient of a lot of jibes over social media. I'm sure that he was the recipient of a lot of insults on social media.
You think he should have spoken out?
Yeah, he just should have been more accurate. The reality is that...
More accurate or more comprehensive?
Isaiah Thomas, good dude, terrific terrific scorer, miniature dynamo. He can put up points on anybody when healthy, and I don't think last year was indicative of the kind of things that he can bring to the table. He has shot 35% from the field, 25% from three-point range, playing in just 15 games, starting 14 for the...
Well, I think that this up-and-coming season is going to determine if his tenure in Cleveland was just a little down point in his career, or if this is the Isaiah Thomas that we're going to see from here on out. Because once again, he is right at that 30-31 year range. And for a person who's only 5'8", it's not like he's a spectacular athlete. He's a very good athlete. I believe that he can dunk. I've seen him touch the rim before, but it's not like he's Nate Robinson or Spud Webb. So he does not have a very large margin for error when it comes to his ability to perform in the NBA. So we'll see. The hip is not a joint that you want to be injured when you're a professional athlete, especially when you're in your late 20s, early 30s, because it might not ever heal back the same, but we're going to find out.
For the Cleveland Cavaliers, it just wasn't ideal. But if you're going to open your mouth and speak that way, tell the story. Number one, Cleveland wasn't that high on you because they knew you were not Kyrie.
Well, no, that's not quite what happened, Stephen A. Smith. They were high on him because they thought that he could replace Kyrie. At the end of the day, he put up bigger numbers in Boston the year before he got there than Kyrie has ever put up in his career. Those are just the facts of the matter. They were hoping that he would come back and be fully healthy and be able to replace Kyrie's offensive output. But was he ever the talent of a Kyrie Irving? No. And when he finally did make his debut with the Cleveland Cavaliers, he showed that he was not the same player. And if you're not going to be the same player, you're not even going to approximate a Kyrie Irving. You're out there 5'8", shooting 35% from the field, and we know that you play no defense whatsoever. There were moments when the brother was out there looking like Brian Boitano, just skating out there on a damn basketball court. He looked ridiculous. So I think that the frustration from Cleveland came once they realized that he couldn't play. I don't think that they were that frustrated when the trade first happened. I think they were a little bit frustrated. Because when you go according to the eye test, you know that Isaiah Thomas is not the player that Kyrie Irving is. You know that very, very easily. But at least you could fool yourself by looking at the numbers. But when he came back onto the court with Cleveland, I'm sure that the overall reaction from the Cleveland Cavalier fan base was, wow, we bought a used up lemon from the Boston Celtics.
Bottom line, as gifted as good as you are not Kyrie Irving. You still ain't Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving's hurt, but we know you're not Kyrie Irving. That's number one. Number two, it was a situation where, right or wrong, there was noise coming out of the Cleveland Cavaliers camp, Max, that he was a distraction. That he was somebody that complained a little bit too much, that was outspoken. He actually led the charge against Kevin Love when they came into the locker room and Kevin Love ultimately was gone because he wasn't feeling well or what have you. I say, D Wade ultimately stood on the court after practice a couple of days later and was like, are we all going to run away from this? Or are we going to address this like men? And demanded that it be addressed. But prior to that, Isaiah Thomas was considered the one that was making a lot of noise about what transpired. And so when you look at it from that perspective, whether it's true or not.
Well, let's put it all on the table, Stephen A. Smith. The main reason why Isaiah Thomas was attacking Kevin Love was because he wanted Kevin Love's spot as the second scorer on the team. Because he was concerned about being able to secure the bag, quote unquote. He was still trying to convince himself that he had an opportunity to become a max player. And Kevin Love was standing in the way. He needed Kevin Love to go back to being the third option on that team's offense. He needed to jack up 20 shots a game. This is what's going on in his mind. That's why he was attacking Kevin Love.
Or not remains to be seen, but he needs to know that's the kind of stuff that people were saying about him, that he was a bit too noisy, he complained a bit too much, he was a bit temperamental, and we understand why.
And at the end of the day, he was not bringing enough productivity to offset all the complaining that he was doing.
Why he must have been temperamental, assuming that's true. You get traded from Boston. You loved Boston. You averaged 28.9 points a game. You were once talking about they're going to deliver me the money. You're going to get paid $200 million. And the next thing you know, you on the verge of get paid nothing. And now you signed for $2 million.
Not 200, two.
200 to 2. So all of those things, that would explain why you're a bit.
And he's still talking about how if Boston wanted him back, he'd be willing to go back to Boston. I did a 2-part video on Isaiah Thomas in regards to whether or not he has a soul tie with the Boston Celtics. He would go back to the Boston Celtics in a minute, even in a bench role.
A bit temperamental. I'd be temperamental of that.
By my calculations, that's 1/100th of your original asset price. That's 1%.
Oh.
That's what it
Of what you were looking
is.
for.
Just be, if you're going to be open, if you're going to be honest,
Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, the new Isaiah Thomas, not the Hall of Famer Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
Is 5'8" on a good day and finished top 5 MVP. I love this guy, and for some of the same reasons that some people don't
wanted him in LA.
Yeah,
when you were doing Afternoon Drive.
For some of the but when I found out he was going to sign for under $10 million a year, he was in his prime, and some team was about to lock up his age 25, 6, 7, 8 seasons for $7 million a year. You're damn right I wanted him in LA. And by the way, he turned out for a lot of those, for 2 or 3 of those years, to be well worth it, worth multiples of what he got.
I think he's worth it now.
Yeah, but then he got hurt. And here's the thing.
Stephen A. Smith, how could you say that you think that Isaiah Thomas is worth $10 million a year right now? We don't know what he is. Once again, he's the worst defensive player in the NBA according to the metrics. He makes Carmelo Anthony look like Dennis Rodman on defense. And we have no idea what he's going to bring to the table offensively. We're going to find out. But to say that you think that he's worth it now, no, we have to see. Because once again, that hip injury is something that you always have to watch out for once an athlete gets that.
This reminds me of the old Chappelle show, Stephen A., when keeping it real goes wrong.
That's right.
It's not, in terms of his comments, I think that there's the problem with social media.
Well, to be quite honest with you, what really was an example of when keeping it real goes wrong is when he tried to play through that hip injury.
Media and with wanting to show how you really feel about things. I think Isaiah Thomas does feel that way about Cleveland. But you know what? It doesn't mean everyone in Cleveland. And he has to recognize once it sinks in what he just said. He's not talking to his boys. He's talking to everyone.
Right.
Damn, there's some kids in Cleveland, people in Cleveland are proud of where they're from. I don't want to insult them.
Right.
And they love me. I got love for them.
And he wasn't talking about the city or the crowd. He was talking about his experience with.
Yeah, I don't know. It was unclear.
Well, you know what, Stephen A. Smith? For you to say that you know exactly what he was talking about, that's not really fair to him, and that's not fair to Cleveland. We have to go by what he stated. He called the city of Cleveland a shithole. That's the fact of the matter. And I believe that he was speaking from his perspective, and he was speaking the truth as he saw it. And I have no problem with him doing that. But then don't back off of it. Once those words come out your mouth, don't back off of it. But beyond that, he should not have said that in the first place. Social media, to me, should be utilized as a grown man for business, not for you to put forth your personal feelings about things. You cannot use social media as a psychiatrist. It's only going to bite you in the backside.
Clear to me, he may have been talking about Cleveland. The point is when keeping it real goes wrong, and this went horribly wrong, then he's got to apologize for it, or he does anyway. I think a lot of the problem, Stephen A., is he was part of the problem in Cleveland, as you said. He's getting $2 million, not $200 million. Now's not the time for this if you're Isaiah. This is just bad, not
Totally
the time
agree.
for it if you're
Totally
Isaiah.
agree. Let me get to your point about when keeping it real goes wrong. You don't watch Power. You do.
Oh, yeah.
The woman, the black woman, that is the head of the DA office on the show Power on Stars.
Angela's boss.
Angela Valdez's boss.
Yeah.
She's the girl that was in the Dave Chappelle show when Keeping It Real goes wrong. She was like, I don't play that, what I'm saying? And she got beat down. And she ended up in jail and got beat down in the skit. If you go back and watch the skit when Keeping It Real goes wrong, the woman that plays Angela's boss on Stars and on the show Power, she was the one that got beat down in the when Keeping It Real.
The first couple episodes.
Stephen A. Smith, brother. Lay off the weed. What the hell does this guy do with Isaiah Thomas?
He's gonna tell me.
I saw the first couple episodes of season 1. Was she in the first couple episodes?
No.
Well, then I wouldn't know.
All right. Power is so good, though.
Yes,
Wait for it every Sunday.
Yes, it is.
Well, according to Floyd Mayweather, this season sucks. I've never watched one episode of that show, so I wouldn't know. But anyway, point being is this. Brothers, when you decided you're going to go on social media and use it as a confessional, you cannot be surprised at what happens. And the more fame that you have, the more that you have to lose, the less you should use social media for personal issues, things of that nature. But anyway, peace.